Hello, everyone. This is Bill Giannone welcoming you to part 7 of our 10-point series on Xactimate versus time and materials and understanding the nuances of commercial invoicing. Today, we're going to discuss the 5 easy pieces of putting together a time and materials invoice. There are, as we said, 5 simple pieces, and here they are: labor, equipment, consumables, subcontractors, and reimbursements. Your entire invoice, short of taxes, should reflect these numbers. First one we're going to talk about is labor. Labor is pretty simple. All of your workers on your project, your crew leaders, your supervisors, your technicians, your laborers, anyone providing direct help or direct resource to the project. If you've got some of your office staff working on the project doing documentation or administration, they count. If you've got somebody going back and forth from your warehouse to the project, expediting the project, they count. All of your staff. You want to make sure you document everything. You want to use daily sign-in sheets every single day. Everybody must sign in and sign out in order to be counted. You want to make sure you have your crew reports prepared. You want your crew leaders and your supervisors to be creating daily reports of what happened, what, if anything, came up, and what you plan on doing for the rest of the project starting tomorrow. You obviously want to document everything with photographs as well. Here's a photograph showing the workers. Now, at first glance, this might look like a whole bunch of people standing around doing nothing, but I just wanted to show you this as an example of all the different types of workers. This photo was taken prior to work starting, because on larger projects, and this was a very large hurricane project, on larger projects, you need to make sure you have a daily meeting with the staff to go over safety features, go over parameters of work, and this is prior to that meeting. This is what we call the muster-up period. So that's why they don't look like they're being very efficient and hardworking, but we did document everything, including getting ready for the meeting. Second part of your T&M invoice is going to be the equipment, all of your owned equipment, and I stress owned in capital letters. Do not include rental equipment. If you rent equipment, that would be considered a subcontract relationship, and you should be receiving an invoice from your rental company for that equipment. You are not entitled to put equipment that you do not own into this category. That instead has to be in the subcontractors. This is your own equipment that you have stored, you have paid for, you have maintained, and you have brought to the job site. That's the equipment that's on your price list that you get to include. Remember, again, I will stress every time, document everything. Your equipment logs need to be filled out every single day, and they need to be unique. It's not good enough to just copy and paste. You need to have crew reports outlining if any equipment was moved or added or subtracted. There should be detailed explanations as to why that happened, along with moisture logs. And then, of course, photos once again. Here's some pictures of equipment that's actually staged, not in use yet, staged, waiting for the work to be, the demo work and the prep work to be finished in this hotel lobby. You can see on the left-hand side, got some wallpaper being taped up to the wall while the holes are being prepared on the bottom for some cavity drying. These are staged pieces of equipment. They're not being charged yet, but these are the pieces that we all understand. On commercial projects, however, there's many pieces of equipment that we don't normally think about as being equipment we charge for in a traditional Xactimate estimate. But in the case of a commercial project, it's very important that we understand that we can charge for these things. Things such as ladders, shovels, brooms, garbage cans, even buckets. All of these things are pieces of equipment that can be charged for. So when you're building that T&M price list under the equipment category, let's make sure we're including all these different extra pieces of equipment that are normally included or inferred within Xactimate. But when you're doing time and materials, the only way to capture them is to actually record their usage and charge for them. The third category would be your consumables, your materials, the things that you're burning through. These are all the supplies you bring from the warehouse. Once again, there's a catch here. Do not include items that you buy at a supply store or Home Depot and bring directly to the job. The concept of a consumable is something that you have already laid out the money for. You have taken the time to store in your warehouse. You have put it onto the truck and you've transported it to the facility. If you're just simply going and buying it, you don't have any of those other additional costs for rent and for heating and the loss of use of your money over weeks or months, keeping a supply in the warehouse. So for these reasons, we're allowed to charge more for our consumables to help offset our overhead than you would if you went to Home Depot. Again, if you do go to Home Depot or a supply house and you bring the stuff directly to the job site, that is considered a reimbursable expense. You've laid out cash that you're going to get reimbursed for. So let's just understand that. Once again, I'm going to be repetitive. We need to document everything. We have inventory logs that are supposed to keep track of every single item that gets used, every garbage bag, every mask, every pair of gloves, all the plastic, all those things need to be documented as we use them. Crew reports will help us greatly in doing that by describing the type of work involved. And once again, obviously, photographs. Here you'll see a table prior to the start of work. When the workers show up, every morning they're given things that they need to use during the day. Each pile has an N95 dust mask, a pair of plastic goggles, and some gloves. In the case of a large loss, again, this is from a hurricane, gloves and goggles, even though they can be used maybe another day or two, they are considered consumables. They do not count as equipment because there's no reasonable expectation that they can be used over and over. The lifespan, especially on large losses, is very short, so these items are considered consumables. Here's a huge pile of trash, but the garbage bags that were used in this huge pile of trash would constitute consumables as well. Let's just remember to include all of those consumables onto our price list so that we can accurately and fairly charge for them. The fourth category would be your subcontractors. These would be the guys that you bring in to help you on these large losses and that are going to submit an invoice to you for their services. What you're going to do is you're going to take those invoices and you're going to add them all up, and you're going to include one line on your invoice that includes all of these invoices and the total. So your plumbing, your HVAC guys, your electrical, any equipment rentals, you're obviously going to be able to document by having pictures. We're taking pictures of everything. Your crew reports are going to explain the interactions with these subs. And of course, their sub invoices, you're going to submit them as proof that you've incurred that cost. Here's a picture of some subcontractors. You can see there's some roofers up on the top putting a temporary tarp on the building. We've also got a lift over on the left-hand side of the picture, a big man lift that was rented from a rental company. That equipment will be part of a subcontract invoice that we'll receive. We did not bill that equipment out as our own because it clearly is marked from a rental company. In this picture, you'll see that we have some chiller units, we have some generators, and we have some desiccants in the far left-hand corner. All of this equipment was rental equipment as well. This invoice counts once again as a subcontractor invoice. The drying expert came on with his team and his equipment, and they submitted a subcontract invoice. We were not allowed, or we did not include that in our own equipment, as that is not ours. Finally, we have the fifth category, which are the reimbursements. Anytime you incur an out-of-pocket expense on the project that's directly related to the project, you're entitled to be reimbursed for those. That would be things like per diems if you're traveling away from your home base and your staff needs to be paid for meals, your per diem would be a cash expense that you would be reimbursed for. Additional supplies that you weren't able to bring from your warehouse, but you had to order from a supply house or Home Depot. And fuel, things, sometimes you'll need fuel for your generators or your desiccants or even for your vehicles. So let's make sure that we have all of those receipts. The crew reports, once again, are going to be able to document a lot of this work, and obviously photographs. If you look at this picture, we already covered the garbage bags as a consumable, but the Penske truck in the background is a vehicle that we rented. That's not one of our own company vehicles. That's a rented vehicle. We will be getting a bill for that. They're not subcontractors because they're not providing a service to us. We're just renting the truck, so that would be what I would consider a reimbursement. That takes care of the 5 categories on your invoice. The next time we get together in part 8, we're actually going to be talking about creating that invoice. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Continued success. And on behalf of everyone at the Crest Network, thank you for being part of our network. Bye-bye.